Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. My trip didn't start the way I would have liked. On Thursday and Friday, I was supposed to be in Minneapolis for the convention. When we were younger, Martha, my wife, took half a day off so that I would have a lot of good memories for the whole time I was away. This time, she just kissed me goodbye on the way to work. My name is Ivan de Bedjervitsen, Ebiger for short. I am 49 years old, and I have been married to my wife Martha for 24 years. We have 2 children, Ross, 22, and Amelia, 20. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I left work and went to the airport. My flight was at 6 p.m. Because I hate being late or worrying about missing my flight, I always arrived at the airport early. This time everything went just fine, and I waited an hour for the landing signal. Due to bad weather, the plane arriving from Minnesota was delayed. A snowstorm was coming at us. After a 45-minute delay, we finally boarded. Half an hour into the flight, I felt the plane lurch to the left. At first, I thought he was correcting course, but soon realized he was turning around. And indeed, the pilot informed us that due to a snowstorm, landing at the Minneapolis airport is impossible, and we are returning home. Back at the airport, I hurried to the airline desk to reschedule my flight for the next morning. I was lucky enough to take one of the last available seats. I'll be late for the convention, but I'll make it. As soon as the location was confirmed, I called on the phone and informed my interlocutor in Minneapolis that I was delayed in arriving and would be there tomorrow. I also left a notification on my boss's voicemail. Then he called home, but Martha didn't answer the phone. Although it was a little after 8 in the evening, the house was dark and Martha's car was not in the driveway. She probably decided to work late or go to a restaurant. Now that our youngest child had gone to college, the house seemed empty. Leaving my luggage in the car, I entered the house. I heard voices coming from the living room. It's strange. Heading in that direction, I realized that the TV had been left on. This meant that Martha came home after work, because I'm sure the TV was turned off when I left for work. I turned it off and looked around the house for her. No trace of it. I called her on her cell phone. She picked up the phone after several calls. "Hi, honey," Martha said when she found out my cell phone number. "Hi, honey, where are you?" I asked. It was such an innocent question. That's the question I've asked so many times in our marriage. And I didn't ask it to be curious. I just asked where she was. "Where else, stupid? I'm watching TV shows at home," she replied, figuratively speaking, pouring a bucket of cold water on me. "And you, how was your flight? Are you at the hotel yet?" My brain froze. I'm tired of the delay on the way. All I wanted was for my wife to come back so I could rest and cuddle with her for a few more hours. It was such simple expectations. Despite the flight delay, I felt lucky. I'll be able to spend some unexpected bonus hours in my bed with my wife. Until 30 seconds ago, I was happy that I was stuck at home. But instead of going back to my 24-year-old beloved wife, I went back to lying and cheating. That's what I didn't expect at all. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what to say. Did she really just lie to me? Why did she do that? She had no reason to lie to me if she was at work with friends or having dinner. My silence must have been long because Martha asked, "Honey, are you still there?" Yes, sorry. We've landed in O'Hare and I have to go," I said, hanging up. My phone rang almost immediately. I didn't answer and turned it off. I needed time to think. Sitting alone on the couch, I felt numb. I was trying to figure out why Martha would lie to me. Maybe she's preparing a surprise for me. I remembered how 4 years ago I had to tell her a whole series of lies. I was planning a 2-week cruise for our 20th wedding anniversary, and involved her boss and her parents in this. Over the course of a month, I lied repeatedly, trying to just get out of the truth. All the lies became reality the day we flew to Miami for the weekend and ended up at the pier, where I handed her a couple of cruise tickets. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find a special date in the coming months. At best, my birthday and 25th wedding anniversary will be in 10 months. There was one thought that kept coming back, but which I relentlessly rejected. I refused to think about it. Not us. Others, yes, face it, but not us. That's it. I knew one person who should have known about any surprise planned by Martha. My daughter, Amelia. Turning on the phone, I quickly dialed her number. "Hi, Daddy. How are you?" said my favorite, picking up the phone. "Hello, baby. How are you?" I asked. "It's nothing special, Daddy. I just finished my homework and I'm watching TV right now," she said. And you? Have you talked to your mom lately? No, nothing special except our weekly phone conversation on Sunday, Amelia replied. Uh, Sorry to ask, but do you happen to know anything about the surprise she's preparing for me? Don't tell me what it is. Just tell me if your mom is planning something, I asked, full of hope. No, Daddy, nothing at all. Why are you asking? Well, she's been acting weird lately, and I was wondering if she was hiding some nice surprise for me. Maybe for my 50th birthday, I told her. No, not yet, Daddy. Didn't we celebrate your birthday last month? Yes. Well, forget I'm asking. Good night, baby. Good night, Daddy. It wasn't that. Why would she lie to me? Maybe it was her upcoming promotion. Yes, that's it. I do not know why she lied about it, but it may be due to the fact that she is still trying to get a promotion. Working on a promotion made her stay late so often lately. She knew that no promotion was worth our wasted time together. She knew that I insisted that she reduce her time at work a little so that we could be together more. She also knew that I had the right to ask for it, because I turned down the promotion myself in order to be able to spend more time with her and the children, just a few months before our 20th anniversary. Almost 5 years ago, I participated in a competition and received an offer to become vice president of finance at my company. The only problem was the constant trips to the head office in Chicago, where board meetings were held, as well as regular excursions to all our factories across the country. I was thrilled when I was offered the job, but Martha soon made me think twice about whether to take it. First of all, my predecessor got divorced within 2 years of his promotion. As a result, he became rich but lonely and unhappy. My children still had 2 and 4 years left in high school, and they still needed guidance and support from both parents. Martha didn't like being the only participant in this process. We talked about this for a whole week before I realized that I would soon lose sight of the most important thing in my life, my wife and children. I turned down the promotion. That's why I didn't take the last few months very well when Martha started working hard on her own promotion. For Martha, it was different. The kids were in college, and there were only 2 of us. Her promotion meant a little more travel, but nothing that could have a big impact on our lives. Perhaps we could schedule our trips for the same time period to minimize the separation time. The problem was the large number of hours spent working overtime for a promotion. Seeing my wife for only 1 or 2 hours a day, for a whole week, was not very pleasant for me, and this is not to mention the fact that our lovemaking has decreased. She even spent many Saturdays and some Sundays at work. When she returned home, she was just completely exhausted. I don't even know the last time we made love. 3 weeks ago? Last month? We're not young anymore, but it was a pity. So I wouldn't be surprised if she was working when I called and lied to avoid my complaint. Of course, this is unfair because I was on the road too, and I realized that a little overtime would not hurt anyone. Well, there was an easy way to find out. I grabbed my phone and dialed her direct line number. T-Bolt Advertising, this is Jake Turnbull, my wife's colleague replied. I was a little taken aback. They don't work in the same room, and I definitely didn't expect anyone other than Martha to answer the phone. But Jake was a good guy and would have told me if Martha had been around. Hi, Jake, it's Ibiger. Hi, Evan, Jake replied. He never wanted to use my nickname. Why are you calling me here when you and your wife are on vacation together? Really, I went from surprise to surprise tonight. Vacation? What kind of vacation? Hi, I'm sorry to bother you at work, Jake. I just hit the wrong speed dial button on my phone, I lied. No problem, Evan. Just tell Martha that she owes me lunch when she gets back next Monday for filling in for her again. You see, I'm at work and it's well past 9 in the evening. She owes me a lot, he said, and hung up. Not only was Martha not working, she wasn't at work at all. Jake told me she's not working until the end of the week. It started scaring me to death. Where was Martha and what was she doing? A thought came to my mind, unbidden and unwelcome. Oh no, this can't be happening. I've always refused to think the worst of people. I prefer to be a positive person, to look at things from the good side, to see the best in each of us. But now I was thinking about the worst. Could it be? Could she have done this to me? Can she be with her sister Nadia? We've become estranged from Nadia and Nadia's ex-husband, Mike. We were very close once. We spent evenings together, nursed each other's children, co-organized many family gatherings, and even went on vacation together. It all ended one day when I came home with a terrible headache. After taking a couple of Tylenol tablets, I lay down on the couch. Half an hour later, Marta and Nadia returned from the store. They were chatting furiously and didn't notice me. Did you notice the new production manager at the grocery store? Nadia asked. Of course he's cute, if I may say so, my wife replied. And he smiled at you like that. He should be smiling after we frolicked together in the back seat of my minivan yesterday, Nadia said. Oh, Nadia, not that, my wife said. One day you'll get caught and lose a good husband, and maybe more. Don't worry, big sister, I'm always careful, Nadia replied. It's time for us to go. It's time to pick up the children. And they left, leaving me wondering what to do. I have always been an honest person, but in this case, I was not sure of the correctness of my actions. I really liked Mike, and I knew that the news of Nadia's betrayal would be devastating. I was also sure that he would throw her out of the house in the blink of an eye. Do I really want to play the role of the bad guy and ruin their marriage? I didn't have time to make a decision before my wife returned home with the children. I was glad that she disapproved of her sister's infidelity and, being astute, decided to leave the decision to her. As we were getting ready for bed that evening, I asked her about my dilemma. Honey, I have a difficult choice to make, and I really need your advice, I began. Let's say I overheard a conversation today and found out that one of our loved ones is cheating, making love outside of marriage. What should I do? Should I report it? Should I get mad at a cheater? Martha looked at me, not knowing what to say at first. Well, it may depend on the circumstances. Is this a one-time mistake? Or is it a mistake while drinking? There are so many possibilities, Martha said. Let's say it's Mike and that he picked up a woman in a bar, I said. And I know it's not the first time. Should we ignore this and say nothing? Should I talk to him to help him change his views? Martha suddenly sat up straight in bed and grabbed her phone. Bastard, she said. I'm going to show you what to do, and I'm going to do it right away. I'll tell Nadia right away that he's cheating on her. I snatched the phone out of her hands. Let me do it, honey. It's my responsibility, I said. Are you sure this is the right thing to do? I'm sure of it. I hope she gets that bastard out of the house, Martha turned to me. And we won't let him stay with us. He can find another place for himself. I don't want a cheater in my house. Luckily for me, Mike answered the phone. Hi, this is your favorite brother-in-law. I'm sorry to call so late, but I need to tell you something very bad, I began. Favorite brother-in-law? You're my only brother. In-law, Mike said. What's so important that you're calling so late? I overheard a conversation today, and I have very bad news, just devastating. Your better half is not really yours, so to speak. Your spouse is cheating on you. It happened yesterday, and it's not the first time. Mike was silent for a long time on the phone. I can't believe this, he finally said, his voice barely loud enough. Are you sure you're talking about my Nadia? Yes, I heard the confession from the horse's mouth. Bragging is a more appropriate description than admitting, to be precise. And I didn't hear any signs of remorse. It was like a description of a game of hide and seek. I'm very sorry that I brought such bad news. I'll let you handle it your way, but feel free to call. We'll be there for you and the kids. Thank you. And Mike hung up. Martha had tears in the corners of her eyes. She smiled at me sadly. I'm so proud of you, honey. It takes courage to be the bearer of such bad news, Martha said. Could you give me a hug? I feel so lost and scared. I hugged her and rocked her gently. I wonder if they'll go to therapy, I asked after a while. I don't think it's going to do any good, Martha replied sleepily. Once a liar, always a liar. You're right. I was already drifting off to sleep when my phone rang. Yes, hello, I said, yawning and speaking softly, trying not to wake Martha. What did you tell Mike? Nadia's very angry voice asked. Only the truth. I only told the truth, I said, glancing at Martha, who had woken up. I discussed it with Martha tonight, and we decided it was better to tell the truth, no matter how hurtful it might be. I can't believe my sister would turn me in, Nadia replied, her voice full of venom. Of course I would. She was going to do it herself, but I took her phone and decided to tell your husband myself, I said. We agreed that the cheaters must pay the price, whatever it is. Nadia started crying. But what can I do? Mike kicked me out of the house, Nadia said between sobs. Well, if you got kicked out of the house, then it's well deserved, I said. But what can I do? Where should I go? May I come to you? Nadia asked. No way. Martha and I have talked about this too, and we have no chance of providing shelter to a traitor. Let's do it on our own. I can't believe my sister would say that. She loves me, Nadia said. Martha, what are we going to say to a cheater who asks to come to us after he's been kicked out? I asked Martha, turning the phone towards her, putting my finger to the speaker hole. A mischievous smile appeared on her face. Her mouth moved closer to the phone. "I don't want a cheater in my house. Get out, you bastard," Martha said with genuine pride. I quickly brought the phone back to my ear. "I'm going to speak for both of us, and I'm only going to say it once. You're leaving our lives. Stay away from us. Don't come and don't call. If you need to stay somewhere, go to your parents and try to explain to them why you were kicked out of the house," I said, and hung up. Martha hugged me tighter. "I'm very proud of you, honey," Martha said. We fell asleep. The next morning, as the old Scandinavian saying goes, shit hit the fan. Fortunately, the children were still asleep. Martha's dad called early in the morning and Martha answered. I heard him yelling at his daughter. Martha lost her original smile and turned pale. She was crying when she hung up. "What did you do?" Martha asked. "What did we do, honey? I asked for advice, and telling you about the betrayal was your idea. Breaking all ties with the cheating fool was also your idea, and I totally agreed," I said. "But you said that Mike cheated on Nadia," I said. "Let's say Mike picked up a woman in a bar and made love to her." "I didn't say he cheated on her. Anyway, what's the difference between Mike cheating on Nadia or Nadia cheating on Mike?" I asked Martha. "Well, Nadia is my sister," Martha replied. "So you're saying that she can cheat on her husband because she's your sister? Is this a family matter? Do I have any reason to worry?" I said with obvious irritation. Martha was speechless. "Honey, I'm going to say this once, and you better believe me. This sister of yours is a bad role model for our children. I don't want her around, and I don't want you to have anything to do with her. She has no place in this house and next to our children. That was 3 years ago. I know Martha still dated her sister sometimes, but it was a taboo topic in the house. It was no surprise to me that she went to see her sister while I was away, and that she hid it from me. She was still someone who wasn't very nice, but since Mike recovered from the drama and remarried soon after, most of my resentment was gone. I just didn't give a damn about that fool, and I was glad she wasn't around. Martha, we need to talk about this. This is not a very pleasant topic, but it will be easier for us if we diffuse the situation. I'm pretty sure she didn't like lying to me about it when I didn't care anymore." Chapter 2. Discovery. There was a crowd of at least 1,000 convention participants in front of me. They were all looking at me, an anonymous crowd with no faces. I took a deep breath and began my exposure. Research shows that in the world of tissues, there are 2 types of people. There is the first group, deniers, people who blow their noses, do not look down and immediately throw away the cloth. And there are people who look into the face of reality. They blow their nose and look at the fabric. Someone in the crowd waved to get my attention. It was Dave Millicent, Martha's boss. "Yes?" I asked. "Well," he grinned, "come to terms with this reality. I used your wife." Right behind him, Jake Turnbull stood up, smiling. "I used your wife, too." The third guy, unknown, also stood up. "Me too," and he started laughing out loud. "No, not really, I just always wanted to say it." And the whole crowd started laughing very loudly. Thousands of unfriendly faces grinned at me. Straightening up, I sat down on the couch. Damn, I fell asleep on the couch. Wiping the drool from my face, I stood up. He looked at his watch. It was midnight. He must have slept for over an hour. Maybe Martha came home while I was sleeping and didn't notice me because I wasn't supposed to be here. I went into the bedroom, but there was no sign of her. And then I remembered that she was probably with her sister. I wanted to call Nadia and ask Martha, but I realized that even if I knew where she lived, I had picked up her children from there several times. I had no idea what her phone number was. Or do I know? I picked up my smartphone, and just when I was about to go to the contact list, I saw the icon of the Find My Phone application. I installed it on both of our smartphones last year when I lost mine somewhere between New York and Cincinnati. In a matter of seconds, I located Martha's phone. Mills Lake? What the hell was she doing in Mills Lake? Nadia was broke, and she definitely didn't have the money to buy or even rent a cottage in Mills Lake. It was a very elite village. Most of the cottages were many times more expensive than our house. I used Google Earth to determine exactly where it is located. She was not in the village itself, but in a very secluded estate surrounded by a large stone wall. What was Martha doing in the millionaire's house? Mills Lake was about an hour's drive from the city. I needed to know what she was doing there. I wasn't ready for a confrontation if I was ready at all, and had to find out what she was doing there. If I had just asked her, she would probably have lied, as she already did. A few minutes later, I was in my car. The whole time I was driving there, I kept blaming myself for refusing to believe the worst from Martha. I should have looked at her phone's GPS locator right away, instead of looking for excuses for her lies. When I arrived at Mills Lake, I still didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to expect, and I was still hoping for a simple explanation. I drove towards the estate where Martha was staying. Damn, there was a huge gate blocking the entrance, and I definitely wasn't going to drive there and buzz the house asking my wife. I looked around. A parked car on the road would be an eyesore for the locals, and would surely attract a police car or any other security that worked in this select community. I drove a little more before I found a tree path where I could park the car. I didn't even know how I was going to climb that wall. Then I realized that the estate stood in front of the lake, and that perhaps there was a way to get into the territory from this side. Soon I found a pedestrian exit to the lake. On the shore, I wasn't even sure which of the big cottages Martha was in. I had to constantly check with the GPS locator. Finally, I got to the big mansion. The light was still on in the mansion, but it came from the second floor. It was dark on the ground floor. One curtain was open, and light was pouring out of the window. I found a tree and climbed it high enough to look into the house. First, I saw a man in a white terry cloth robe. I didn't recognize him at all. He was older than me, maybe 60 years old. He stepped aside. A few minutes later, a woman appeared, and I immediately understood why Martha was there. It was Nadia. Her housecoat was open, and she was looking out at the street, sipping champagne from a glass. She was naked under the robe. Well, at 40, she was still a very good-looking woman. His chest was barely sagging, and his stomach was still flat. So I was right. Martha was with her sister. I was not surprised to learn that Nadia was looking for a sweet daddy, knowing that the divorce was difficult for her financially. But I didn't really like finding out that Martha was involved in such a life. You never know what might happen to these people. The man I saw first came up behind Nadia. He gently grabbed her, his hands wandering all over her body. He took the champagne glass from Nadia and placed it to his left. His hands went up to her shoulder, and he took off her housecoat, which slipped to the floor. I should have climbed down from the tree so I wouldn't have to see my daughter-in-law in all her gorgeous nakedness. But I didn't do it. The old man was still in his housecoat. What I just witnessed was completely devoid of love. I didn't like Nadia, but I would never wish her anything bad. A little embarrassed by this sight, I was about to climb down when the couple moved away from the window. Then I caught a glimpse of Martha. She was sitting on the couch at the back of the room, a stupid, drunken grin on her face. My heart skipped a beat. Her housecoat wasn't just open, it was open all the way to her hips and held in place only by a belt. The second man came up to her, opened his robe, and offered to make love. Martha sealed the fate of our marriage when she put down her drink and agreed to the proposal. I was so shocked that I took a step back and fell out of the tree. The branches cushioned my fall, and I didn't hurt myself much when I landed. Like a zombie, tears streaming down my face, I limped back to my car. It hurt me. Really very deeply wounded, not from falling out of a tree, but from falling out of grace, from losing my love. For a few seconds, I thought about rushing to the cottage, breaking down the door and making as much mess as possible. But the idea of spending the next 3 to 5 years in prison, for breaking and entering and for assault was, to put it mildly, not very attractive. A mixture of emotions struggled in my head as I walked alone through the night. There was no more denial in me. There was only a sense of loss, immense sadness, and a growing anger that I didn't dare let loose unless it overwhelmed me and ruined my life even more than it was. I knew that even if my anger turned into rage, I would never do anything that could cause Martha physical pain. But I almost did. I could just go home, pack my things, and leave her. Living in the state without guilt, having your own salary, and having no more minor children at home, a divorce would be simple. Divide everything 50-50 and goodbye. But I needed a little revenge. I played with the idea for a few minutes and decided to go for it and see what happens. I picked up my phone and dialed Martha's number. As expected, she didn't answer the phone, and I got her voicemail. I was hoping she'd check her voicemail right after I left her a message, just in case. "Hi, honey," I said. "You didn't pick up the phone from your home phone, so I'm trying to call your mobile right now. I just want to tell you not to panic when you hear my keys in the door in a few minutes." It was a crazy evening. Because of a snowstorm, our plane was diverted to Chicago and then sent back here. They don't know exactly when we will land, but I have to be home 30 minutes after that. See you soon. Now she should have heard the ping sound telling her that she had a voicemail. Since we were in the middle of the night, she must be curious and upset enough to get the message so late. It's really not in my nature. Now she reaches for the phone and goes to voicemail. Please let her be so drunk that she doesn't realize that I couldn't use my cell phone on the plane. Now she's panicking. She's about to get caught. She's not sure, but she thinks she can jump in the car and get there before I get home. At this time, she gets dressed quickly and probably answers questions from her sister and her lover. My phone scared me when it started ringing. I didn't think about it. It was logical to assume that she would try to find out exactly when I would be home. Hi, honey. I'm sorry if I woke you up, I said. It's all right. Are you on your way home already? Martha asked. I'll be there in about an hour, give or take a few minutes, I replied, knowing that it would be difficult for her to get ahead of me, but it's possible. Will it bite her? Okay, see you later, she said and hung up. A few minutes later, I saw her car drive out of the gate of the estate and drive quite quickly towards the highway. Heck, she almost ended up in a ditch. She must be drunker than I thought. It's one thing to play with Martha. It's another to sit here when she might get into an accident and kill a few innocent strangers. I was angry at her, but not for risking the life of the mother of my children. Think fast, faster. 911, what's wrong with you? I would like to report a drunk driver. The car almost crashed into me and then drove off, swerving like crazy. She had just pulled onto the highway at Mills Lake, heading south. It's a dark blue Ford Taurus, and I've memorized the last 4 digits on the license plate. This is 7,714. Somebody stop this car before the driver kills someone. They thanked me for my help and assured me that the patrol car would check the drunk driver. I kept my distance and followed Martha. 2 turns later, I saw a highway patrol car on the bridge above the highway. As soon as Martha's car came into view, she took off and drove back onto the highway. Of course, they stopped Martha. I drove past them. 45 minutes later, I was home. It's almost funny if it wasn't so sad that overnight, the life of one of those I loved so much became unimportant to me. I really had to take a few seconds to weigh the possibility that Martha might die in a car accident, as well as the sadness and suffering that my children would experience. Nowhere was my love for her a factor in my decision. It's not that I didn't love her more, but I couldn't see our future life together. After turning off the ringer of my home phone, I also turned off my mobile. I needed to think about it. I can't believe I've spent the last few hours trying to find an explanation for Martha's lies when the obvious was constantly catching my eye. I opened a bottle of wine and tried to figure out what to do. For many years, I believed that my love for Martha would be like a bottle of good wine, that it would reach its peak with age. But in fact, it looks like it turned into vinegar. I loved this woman so much that the pain of her betrayal was killing me. No, it wasn't just betrayal that was killing me. It also killed me to realize that I had lost our love. Without this love, I was nothing. I was nobody. She has defined me for the last 26 years, 24 years as husband and wife. Will I be able to survive this? Wouldn't it be less painful to just go to the next bridge and just jump off it? I never thought that I would have to plan my life without Martha. I didn't know how to proceed with this. I've never made decisions without first discussing them with Martha. Now I couldn't even think about talking to her. It's simple. My family has been my whole life. Every decision was made with my wife and children in mind. Even our social life was focused on the needs of our family. I didn't communicate much with my colleagues at work. I attended social events like the annual Christmas party and the like, but I always headed home right after work. Over the past 10 years, I've been able to count on the fingers of one hand how many times I've met people from work. Now that the children have left home, only Martha and I are left. It was just me now. I was left alone with my grief. I was left alone, and I had no one to love. For the first time in my life, I was left alone. Why did she do this to me? Why cheat if a simple divorce would still be painful, but more respectful of all the years and happy moments we shared? When did she stop loving me? Did she stay with me only until the children grew up and left? When did she stop caring about me? I saw the departure of our children as an opportunity to focus more on Martha and on us. She seemed to see this as the end of the road for us. My thoughts weren't that clear, but now I realize that she probably didn't know how to break up. Somewhere, I think she still cares about me, unless it was cowardice. The way she grabbed him without thinking and started licking him showed me how comfortable they were with each other, or how easy it was for me to cheat. Martha and her lover. I was alone without love, and I only had one thought. We died as a couple. In the midst of my despair, my pain was the link to life. The pain reminded me of my loss, of the best moments, of my children. I have to think about them. My children saved me that night. I didn't have enough self-respect left to get out of the deep well of my despair. My children did it. They helped me keep my composure a little bit. Ross and Amelia will soon get married and start their own families. I realized that I wanted to be a grandfather who would pamper their many children. Only with Martha, I can't do it. I needed to get away from all this before grief killed me. It won't be very hard, it just hurts. I know that I will always remember Martha the way I loved her. I had to get out of Dodge. I have always been a man of modest expectations. My parents weren't rich, but I grew up in a very loving family. I could do without all these flashy things that I owned now. If you think about everything we owned, my clothes, car, and laptop were the only things I would have taken with me. The more I thought about it, the more obvious the solution to my problem became. I'll pack my things and disappear. I don't want to catch the eye of the woman I once loved more than my life. The sight of her will remind me of what I've lost and of my constant pain. I got up, took some bags, and started putting all my clothes in them. It only took me 30 minutes. In a matter of minutes, all the bags were in my car. When I finished packing, it was already about 6 a.m. Then I went to take a nap, as I was sure that Martha would stay in the drunk tank until mid-morning. Chapter 3. Take off. Move on. I was sleeping like a stone, and the alarm clock on my phone woke me up at 9 a.m. After making an urgent appointment with a lawyer, I took a shower, took off my wedding ring, and left it on the table next to the phone. I also decided to take a few minutes to write a letter to Dear Jane. We had nothing to talk about, but I needed to vent my frustration. Martha, I should have known that you would become just like your sister, a stupid, lonely, divorced woman. Genetics, probably. By the time you read this, I'll be out of your life and I'll never see you again. I loved you so much that your betrayal caused me insane pain. I never thought it could hurt so much. After 24 years of a happy life together and gratitude for the 2 children you gave me, I will be fair and quick so that you can return to your lover. I wish you were just as fair and divorced me before you started fornicating with me. Have you been paid? The guy seemed to be in great demand, judging by the mansion you were in. I don't want to see you or talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. My lawyer will contact yours and just sign the divorce papers. At 10 a.m., I was at the bank. I paid for our joint credit cards and canceled them. I asked the bank to write a cash receipt for all our savings and deposits and transferred enough money to the checking account to cover the mortgage and utility bills over the next 2 months. Then I deleted my name from the joint account, and he left the bank with a check in the amount of about $250,000. I was at my workplace shortly before noon. My boss was surprised to see me since I was supposed to be in Minnesota. He was even more surprised when I announced that I was quitting and moving out of town. My relationship with my boss is special. He's my boss because I turned down a promotion, and he felt a little awkward at first, feeling obligated to me. When he went through a divorce 2 years ago, I came to his office and told him that it was because of this that I refused a promotion. Since then, we have been equal partners rather than boss and subordinate. Listen, and I have a suggestion for you, he said. I will accept your resignation from your current position, but I will not ask the HR department to terminate the employment contract and write you a check for your 401k. Instead, I have a vacancy in our new wholesale division in Tucson. They pay less there than you earn now, but I've heard that you can find a decent place there at a very good price. We shook hands after he agreed to spread the word that I had quit my job. Then I went to my lawyer and explained that I was leaving Martha, simply and clearly. He had to hand her the divorce papers and give her a power of attorney so she could sell the house. That would be her 50% share of our fortune. My lawyer tried to persuade me to consult as he was also a family friend, but he quickly realized that by midnight I would be in another city, another state, and without a wife. By the end of the day, I was on my way. I was very tired and stopped at about 8 o'clock in the evening at a rather dilapidated motel. Hey, what do you expect from a $1.60 a night motel? All I needed was a place to sleep. I dialed Ross's phone number on the junk phone I bought earlier. Hello? Hi, Ross, it's Dad, I said. What is this phone number, Dad? Ross asked. Well, save it, it's my new phone number, I said. Is there any news from your mom today? No, and what? Well, I have to be honest with you, Ross, I said. Yesterday I caught your mom cheating. Damn it, Dad. And she too. What are you going to do about it? It's all done, Ross. I packed up my things, cleared my bank accounts, leaving her enough until she sells the house, and I quit my job and hit the road south. I'm done with her. I'll give her the freedom to make love, but not as a wife. At the end of this week, she will be handed a divorce document. There was a long silence on the line. Does Amelia know? Ross asked. No, not yet. It all happened so fast. You're the first one to know. I'm not even sure if your mother knows that I left her. She wasn't around when I was packing, I said. I will call you regularly. Keep me posted. Silence again. I love you, son. I'm tired and I have to go. I love you too, Dad. My phone call to Amelia was just as sad. It was hard for my two children to find out what their mother had done to us. They saw the damage Aunt Nadia had done to her family, and like me, they couldn't understand why their mother had done the same to us. I wonder how long she's been doing this to you, Dad, Amelia said, always blunt. How long has she realized that we are no longer enough for her? It doesn't matter, honey. I just wish she would be honest with me and divorce me before cheating. Now it doesn't matter how long or why. All that matters to me is that I loved her, that I trusted her with my life, and she betrayed that trust. Everything else doesn't matter anymore. Please don't say that, Dad. Tell me you're going to be okay. I'm fine right now, it's very sad, but I'll get over it if I can avoid any contact with your mom, I said. I'll let you know where I'm going to live. Can I come to stay with you after the end of the school year? Amelia asked. Tears came to my eyes when I promised her that she would always be a welcome guest at my place. The Tucson division was small, with only 30 employees, and the district manager was more of a father figure than a ruthless boss. I enjoyed getting to know the team instantly, and they made me feel welcome. A month later, I looked for a nice apartment. I've never talked to Martha, but I've been getting regular updates from my lawyer and the kids. Moving on was not easy. There were a few times when it was really difficult. Firstly, my lawyer informed me that she is ready to challenge the divorce. She said she didn't want a divorce and was ready to fight to the end, even if it ruined both of us. Great, I told my lawyer. Forget about the divorce. I don't care. It was only done to give her a chance to move on for the 24 years of happiness we shared together. Just tell her that I don't want to have anything to do with her anymore, that I have a good life, and that I'm saying, fuck you. Can you say that? Since you are my friend, it will be nice, but I will still bill you for an additional $50, my lawyer said. With the children, it was a little more difficult. One by one, I had to convince them that there was no turning back. The first problem arose with Amelia. Dad, Mom went crazy when I told her I was going to live with you this summer, Amelia said. I told her that I would visit her and her grandfather and grandmother. She was so weird that I had to stay off the phone for several days. Martha also went on a rampage when Ross decided to split his summer between her and me. I never asked about Martha. It was my way of moving on and living my life. It was difficult because I still had some feelings for her, mostly those that were related to our life before the betrayal. However, the children keep giving me information about her. To my surprise, it seems that she was as depressed as I was at the time. It's just unbelievable after what happened to her sister. It's simple. You cheat. It hurts the people you're supposed to love. It ruins your marriage, and you move on with your life. How can she be depressed when I've done everything possible so she can move on without me? Her refusal to divorce seemed to me a way to avoid facing the fact that her behavior had led to the destruction of our family. Stupid, isn't it? I denied it for several hours. She's been denying it for the last 2 years. Knowing that the children communicate with me regularly, she used them to convey an apology for her behavior. From the information provided by the children, I learned that this was the first time she allowed her sister to drag herself into a bed escapade. I didn't really believe it. She apologized to the children, and indirectly to me, for her betrayal. She admitted that it was deliberate, that she knew well what would happen if she went with Nadia, her lover, and his male friend. She told the children about her shame when she remembers that evening. She couldn't calm down there for a while, but decided to drink heavily to drown out the shame and guilt. When she received my voicemail about my imminent return to the house, she had just finished making love to her blind date. She believed that I would come to terms with her if she would atone for her betrayal for a long time, and if she would let me know that she loved me. Through the children, she tried to convince me that she would do anything to show me her love. I knew that the children hoped for my reconciliation with her. But I couldn't even think about talking to Martha. The fact that I lived so far away from their mother was also hard for them, because they had to make a choice, her or me. Martha constantly demanded from the children that they tell her where I live. All she knew was that it was a southern state. Almost 3 years after I left her, she finally found out where I was. One day leaving work, I saw her wandering around the office. I was confident in my children, so I didn't know how she could find out the city where I live. I knew from my children that she was sure that I would change my mind if she could meet me. I really wanted to change her mind about this. She didn't see me because I came out the side door. I grabbed my phone and dialed the number. "Hi, Louise," I said. "Do you remember when I told you about my ex-wife? Well, she's here and will probably follow me home. Be ready. I'll see you in a while." I managed to get into Martha's field of vision so that she would follow me. When I pulled out of the parking lot, Martha was on my tail. After driving around the city for a while, I stopped at a grocery store and then went back home. Arriving home, I pulled into the driveway of my apartment. I didn't have to get my keys because Louise, a very pretty Hispanic woman in her 30s, opened the door to let me in. 2 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Louise, with a 1-year-old baby on her hips, went to open the door. From my vantage point in the kitchen, I could see Martha's surprise. "Sí," Louise greeted and added in a heavy Spanish accent. "How can I help you?" "Hi. I'd like to talk to Evan," Martha said. "And there's someone at the door for you," Louisa shouted. While I was walking out of the kitchen pretending to be surprised, Louise handed me a toddler. "Take care of your daughter while I finish dinner," Louise said. I took the baby and turned to Martha. Well, I can't say I didn't expect this, but it's still a surprise," I said sarcastically. "You know I have to thank you for what you did." Martha stared at me, speechless. "If you hadn't betrayed me, I would never have moved to this part of the country, and I would still be living in the cold, surrounded by concrete, in the Northeast. Now I live here, I have a wonderful lover, and I'm starting to build new family memories with Louise and Tamarita, my little daughter." Martha was openly crying. After so long, my sadness and my anger are gone. I was tempted as a sympathetic person to comfort her, but it passed. I was on a mission. "So, Martha, what do you want after almost 3 years?" I asked. I had to listen carefully to her words, as they were barely above a whisper. "I needed to apologize. I needed to tell you how sorry I am for what I did and how much I hurt you. I should have told you that it was never about you, but only about how stupid I've become. I needed to tell you that I loved you then, despite everything I've done, that I love you now, and that I will always love you. You were the best husband and father a woman could wish for, and I was just a cheapie. I'm sorry for what I ruined. Her apologies hurt me. It was time to end this charade as soon as possible." "Well, it's okay," I said, pretending to be in high spirits. "Water under the bridge, as they say. I haven't thought about it for so long that I can say with confidence that I forgive you." "I wish you a very happy life," I said, looking at the tamarita in my hand. She was all smiles. "As full of love as my life." Tears were streaming down her face. Martha muttered something, came up to me, hugged me, and ran away from home. I closed the door behind her. Louise came out of the kitchen and grabbed Tamarita. I leaned my back against the closed door and let my tears flow down. Louise hugged me cordially, kissed me on the forehead, and picked up the phone. "I'd better tell Horatio that I'll be back home with his daughter soon," Louisa said. "Thank you, Louisa," I said. "And tell Horatio that I'm expecting the 3 of you at the barbecue on Saturday." "It will be done, boss. See you at the office tomorrow." The following week, my lawyer received the divorce papers signed by Martha. Of course, I'm moving on, but at my own speed. I have several girlfriends, intimate relationships with only one, but nothing serious. I think I've finally come to terms with what happened to me. And of course, I become less fearful when a woman appears next to me. I know that I have to give carte blanche to Louise to get me to meet a nice girl, and now I believe that I will do so. However, after this visit, I doubt myself. I don't doubt that I'm leaving Martha, but I've always believed that I have nothing to talk about with Martha, that she knows exactly what I think about my cheating spouse and how to deal with it. But after hearing a little from Martha, maybe I should have objected to her then, even if I always hated confrontation. One thing I know for sure, it was better for me to just disappear, as I did. I loved her so much that if I had met her face to face, I would probably have believed in her remorse and listened to her apologies. And I probably would have lived a miserable life of distrust before going down the path of divorce. But now, 3 years after her betrayal and our life together, Martha's apology has helped me feel like I can really move on now. It was the completion I needed. Now I can let go of my pain and start believing in love again. Someday, I'll even be able to tell her that I don't have a second daughter. Maybe, but I doubt it. I don't owe her anything anymore. End.